Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Dr. Schilling from Secoya Health bringing this week's Wednesday Wellness Minutes. And we're kicking off the new year, first time back in a couple weeks here for the Wednesday Wellness Minutes. And what we want to focus on is do this, not that, as far as it pertains to exercise as you transition to this new year. A lot of misconceptions about exercise. These recommendations are based on my personal experience as far as what I've done personally. I've done everything under the sun, good and bad. Like most people who have done it for any length of time, but also basically what the research is telling us as far as how to keep your hormones the best, the most balanced, and things like that. So we're going to be covering some different ideas. I'm not going to be doing any exercise here. We've done one of those before where we did just a general example. However, just to plug our 2020 Life Transformation Program, there's a 26-day and a 46-day transformation where we're going to be doing people that are looking to lose weight and or transform their body. Basically transform your life, really. That's going to be starting here later this month, and it basically involves, I'm going to be leading exercise every day for people who join this program. So we'll have a private Facebook group that people can join, and once they're in the program, and then I'll be 6 a.m., here we go. And, well, I usually work out at 5, so I'm not really sure how it's going to work yet, but I'll probably be up at 5. Most of you will probably not be up at 5 with me, but at the same time, I will be filming at that point live, and we'll just see how that's going to work. But more details to come. We also have 2 regenerative cellular therapy seminars coming up this month. We have one on Monday, January 20th at 5:45. Another one Tuesday the following week, to January 28th at 6:45. So we're really pumped about that. Taiwo, I'm trying to get him here so you guys can interact with him as well. He's a busy dude. If you haven't met him yet, come on in on a Friday when we're doing regen cell therapy stuff and things like that. He's great, fun to hang out with and chat with. So yeah, just understand that those 2 seminars are coming up, the 20th and the 28th. Bring your friends and family, learn all about regenerative cellular therapy and how it can totally transform your life, get you back to doing what you want to be doing, as well as join the 2020 Life Transformation Program, because ultimately time's ticking and life is short. And so it's about enjoying it now and not just living it out, surviving. It's about thriving. So just a couple plugs there. So basically what I want to talk about exercise-wise is just start off from the beginning. Let's start off with warm-ups, right? Most people are thinking, oh, I don't need to warm up, or I'll do a couple minutes on the elliptical, or a couple minutes on the treadmill, and that's fine. That's totally fine. What you want to understand is that you want to get some dynamic movements. You want to actually get your blood flowing, and walking's fine and all. It's not going to go wrong doing walking, but at the same time, you want to be more dynamic with your joints as far as moving your body. So whether you do some burpees for your warm-up, or you do some mountain climbers. And if you don't know what those are, just YouTube burpees and mountain climbers. And there's wacky jacks. People do jumping jacks. But this is like you're moving the same part of your body at the same time. That's called a homolateral movement, which means you're actually messing up your brain. So if you do a wacky jack, you can do cross arms and legs like that. So just a little something like that. I don't think there's maybe not a YouTube video on that, but crossing your body. It's called cross crawl. When babies start moving, they start learning cross crawl like this. That's a very important function. If you ever feel like your brain's whacked out, for example, like I just can't think clearly and I'm mixing up words and I'm forgetting things, just literally march in place and pay attention to your hands and feet. And if you happen to do this, okay, you mean your brains need some help. So just spend a minute or two, even just a minute, 30 seconds to a minute, marching in place. It's a great way to get your brain reintegrated, get your cross crawl going again. It'll help you engage your brain again. It'll help you think more clearly and things like that. So burpees, mountain climbers, wacky jacks, things like that. Walking's fine, but get a little bit more dynamic. That kind of leads us into stretching. For a long time, there was this big misconception, or I consider it a misconception because I used to do it, about stretching. Like, oh, you gotta. I'm going to hold that for 30 seconds, and oh, there we go. Okay, now I'm going to hold this for 30 seconds, and the whole routine, right? The problem is when you don't have any blood flow in your muscles, you're actually going to tear muscle fibers, which can predispose you to injury during your workouts. And depending on the extensiveness or the intensity with which you're exercising, that can be a big problem, because if let's just say I'm just going to hold my hamstring stretch here for a good 30 seconds, you're going to tear those muscle fibers. Excuse the loud noise. I just realized I slammed my foot on there. But you're going to stretch those fibers to the point where you're actually going to cause a micro tear, which is what you technically want to do if you want to get bigger muscles. But at the same time, you don't want to do that before you're exercising. You want that to happen in the process of your exercise and then recover from it afterward. You don't want to induce a tear before you're about to activate that muscle. So dynamic movements. see if I can do this. So swinging your legs side to side, you can go forward and like, woo, swing it up there and back. You can do arm circles and stuff like that, twisting. You could walk and touch your feet. You can do butt kicks, high knees. You can do your wacky jacks, woo, here we go. Those are great ways to do dynamic movements, okay? Because that's going to actually get your blood flowing, get your respiration going. You might get a little perspiration fired up, but doing that is really important. On the flip side of that, when you're done working out and you want to actually increase your flexibility, which in my mind, a long muscle is a strong muscle and a short muscle is a weak muscle. So the tighter you are and the less flexible you are, it's going to be predisposing you to potential injury, okay? And if you are one of those that are super tight, like, here's my hamstring flexibility, like that, okay? Not very helpful. Oftentimes it's because you have toxins that are trapped in your tissues. So you'd want to look at a liver detox or something like that. If you have any questions, we can help you with that. But basically, as far as stretching goes, ideally you would have someone help you with it because it's way more effective. It's really hard to hold your leg and do things like that. But when you're warming up, you do dynamic stretches, so you're increasing your range of motion with movement. You're not trying to super stretch it or anything, but you're getting a dynamic movement, okay, side to side, front to back. What I do, if I'm going to stretch after the fact and I want to increase my flexibility, is called PNF stretching, peripheral neuromuscular facilitation. It's a fancy word, PNF is for short, okay? So for example, I'll try to not slam my foot up here again. What you would do is you'd literally push your leg down while you're stretching, and then when you're done after 10 seconds, you drop down into that stretch more. So you push down as you exhale, and then you relax into it, okay? That's a great way. You can do that with your groin muscles if you want to do more splits. You can do it with your hip flexors if you have really tight hip flexors. Your TFL, your people that run often get IT band issues on the side of their leg and cause them knee problems. So IT band stretch would be a crossing over and leaning away from the leg, so pushing the hip out. But then again, you want to activate the muscle you're trying to stretch and then relax into it further. So if you need, I'm sure there are videos on YouTube about PNF stretching, but that's what I would recommend for you, any layperson who doesn't have someone to do partner stretching with. It's really helpful to do PNF stretching. You can also, if you're laying on your back, you can grab a strap or a sheet or a towel and wrap it behind your ankle if you want to do hamstring stretches and things like that. But just look up PNF stretching, okay? Next on our agenda would be cardiovascular exercise. Now, in order to improve your cardiovascular, pardon me, and this just gave me an idea to drink water. If you want to improve your cardiovascular health, walking is a great way to do it. You don't need to go out and jog, okay? Jogging is one of the more challenging things on your body because people tend to do this. This is kind of the pace. And what's happening? You're just pounding your knees down into the ground, okay? If you look in nature, the best example I have of how a human being, an adult, should move is look at a kid on a playground. Basically, they run over here, climb up here, jump down there, run across there, they pant for a little bit, and then they keep doing it over and over and over. Or if you look at a squirrel jumping out of a tree, jumps down, sprints across, climbs up. Dogs, run fast, stop, pant, run fast, stop, and pant. You don't see anywhere in nature where somebody's just out there going, yep, it's just a lovely day for a jog. Now, that's a personal bias. I do believe that our bodies were intended to be short bursts. I know that back in ancient Greek times, somebody ran a marathon, from one town to the next called marathon, and that guy died there, okay? Okay. Not a good career move if you want to live for a long time, but people run a lot of marathons, and I know some people really enjoy it, and some people get a great high off of it, and whatever it is. Generally speaking, it's not ideal for your health. So take a step back and say, okay, what is going to be ideal for myself? If you want to boost your growth hormone, boost your metabolism, boost your testosterone, which is going to increase lean muscle mass, high-intensity interval training, which doesn't have to be done every day. You could do it literally twice a week and have massive benefits. So what is high-intensity interval training or HIIT training? Basically, it's short bursts. You can do things that are called Tabatas. Tabatas is the proper term. But it's basically 10 seconds on, 20 seconds off. Or maybe that's flipped. 20 seconds on, 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. And you alternate that, usually 4 rounds, and you do it a couple times. So look up at Tabata, T-A-B-A-A-T-A, something like that. That's a good HIIT training. But then there's also, Dr. Mercola popularized, I believe he did, or he brought to people's more greater attention, something called Peak 8. So basically alternating intervals of less intense with higher intensity. So what I do is if I'm on the rowing machine or if I'm outside doing sprints or something like that, I will do 3 minutes of a brisk walk, or typically a brisk walk because I don't want to jog, but I'm going to briskly walk and get that blood flowing, and then I'm going to alternate 30 seconds of high intensity, basically where you're either out of breath at the end or you can't have a conversation while you're doing it, okay? And then a minute and a half, okay, of a more moderate, where you can, like if you were walking, you'd have a conversation with someone. So you'd be walking along, and then you just really tear into it, right? And literally, if you had in my opinion, if you have the option between walking fast versus jogging, I would pick walking fast all day long, because it's way more, it requires much more strength, because jogging you're gliding, and walking you're actually pushing off, and you're pushing and pulling, pushing and pulling. Jogging you're kind of coasting through. So brisk walking, speed walking is actually going to be way better for you joint-wise, but it's also going to be better for you cardiovascularly. So just keep that in mind. So hit interval training with either Tabatas or P8s, really helpful. So you got a kind of a cardio perspective there. So do the HIIT training, do the Tabatas, do the P8s, avoid the chronic cardio, because what happens is when you do chronic cardio, like you go out for a jog, or you're on the treadmill or elliptical and you're doing one speed the whole time, you actually elevate your cortisol level, which is your stress hormone. And cortisol is catabolic. Most of us who are trying to build muscle want to do anabolic stuff. And I'm not talking anabolic steroids like go, push a bunch of weight around, but what we're talking about is being anabolic and having your body get stronger. Increase your lean muscle mass, which is going to decrease your body fat, and it's going to help you live longer and healthier, because the two greatest indicators of longevity or long, healthy life are calorie restriction, eating less, and lean muscle mass. So the less you eat and the leaner you are, the longer and healthier you're going to be throughout your lifetime. So moving from cardio into strength training. Now, strength training can take on many forms. I personally have adopted a calisthenics mentality. I try to do everything body weight. And the benefits I believe that gives me is that you have a lot more time under tension as far as the muscle goes. So you're not like pushing a bar or something like that, where there's going to be a space between there where you're actually missing some fibers. There's a lot more time under tension as far as the muscles, which is going to increase your muscle mass and actually train the whole muscle. But it's also functional strength. So if you want to go down on the playground with your kids and you want to swing around like the monkey bars like when you're a kid or something like that, it's really helpful to be able to do a pull-up, right? Or to hang on the monkey bars and go from one to the next. I mean, you don't have to go Ninja Warrior on this, but you could, okay? So calisthenics is a great one. Basically what that implies is body weight exercises, literally. You don't need anything more. You can get weight vests. I have one of those, and you can get other tools, jump ropes and parallel bars and things like that, things that can augment your training. But literally, if you have a body and gravity's always pulling on you, you can find things to step up on, step down on. You can do burpees and squat jumps and all kinds of fun stuff. So there's no limit to what you can do at home, or if you travel for business or for pleasure, you can do it in your hotel room or at one of the sites there without needing. The biggest frustration for me traveling was, did they have the machine I wanted? Did they have the free weights at high enough levels that I wanted to work on? But you don't need that anymore, because you can just do body weight stuff. So that's a great option. There are things like TRX bands where you're either hanging like straps from the ceiling or from a machine. And what that gives you is that another way of modifying it, right? So that can give you different angles. It can actually help you do things like, if you can't do a pull-up, you can actually use your body weight at a different angle and pull, like from this angle or this angle or this angle, just depending on your strength and your fitness level. So that's a great way to do it. Resistance bands are helpful. Those are like a step up from just body weight. You can actually, like you could put a band around the back of your shoulders and on your hands and do push-ups like that, and that would give you added resistance, right? You could put them under your feet and over your shoulders and do more weight on your squats and things like that. You could actually strap them over a bar and use it as an assist to get you up to doing pull-ups. At first, most people can't do pull-ups unless they train for it. And as a result, they need support at first. So using resistance bands on the opposite way to actually support you is a great way to do it. You can do it with dips too. If you get on a dip bar and you're like, you get about to fall on your face, not very helpful. But if you can strap it across and put your knees in there like a little cradle, you can use that to help you increase your strength and things like that. So there are a ton of different ways you can use exercise bands. Of course, there's machines if you want to go to the gym. There are free weights. You got the barbells, dumbbells. You can get on machines. A lot of gyms like Snap Fitnesses and Anytime Fitnesses, and I'm sure Lifetimes and everybody else, and LA Fitness. They all have machines where you can take a pin out, put a different weight on there, and do a motion, whatever it is. Pull, push, whatever it might be. Those are useful in certain areas, like people that have an injured limb or something like that, and they can only push on one, or they can't stand and they need help with that. That's really helpful for that. I mean, I've lifted insane amounts of weights in the past, and I've never felt stronger since I've started doing calisthenics than even compared to when I used to squat 400 or 500 pounds and bench 350 and stuff like that. As an adult now, not being competing in athletics, there's no point in it, right? I mean, you feel great. You feel like a beast when you're walking out like, I beat my chest, and I lifted a lot of weight today. But then when you go out there on the playground, you're trying to do simple pull-ups, you're like chasing your kid around the playground, you can't even keep up with them, right? There's a functional strength, and then there's that strength. So it just depends on what your motives are, and there's no right or wrong. It just depends on what makes you feel good. But just understand there are simple, safe ways to do it. We won't go into the different techniques about locking out shoulders and retracting scapulas and stability and stuff like that. If you have questions about that, I'd be happy to help you as far as that goes. But free weights, TRX bands, resistance bands, body weight, it's all there for you. If you have questions, just let us know. Like I said, for the 2020 Life Transformation we'll be doing here later in this month, I'm actually going to be leading bodyweight exercises, which means you can do them anywhere. So just understand that if you want to get in on that, let us know. We'll be happy to help you with that. Breathing is a very important thing. It's really the only thing you have to do today. You can go 3 days without water, 30 days without food, but you can only go about 3 minutes without air. So if you skip that, it's a bit of a problem. So when you think about your breathing, you need to pay attention to how you're breathing and also focus on, am I breathing? Many people get dizzy, lightheaded, they get shortness of breath because they're actually not breathing, okay? Now, dehydration and speaking too fast and hyperventilating are reasons why you might need more breath. But at the same time, making sure you're breathing through exercises. For example, people can have tension, like if you do a lunge, move like this, people hold their breath. They're actually tighter, they have less mobility, and they actually can strain their body because their breathing muscle ties into different muscles that affect different parts of your body. So simple things to do is to make sure you're breathing in. As you exhale, doing a simple lunge like that. If you're doing a jump squat, I won't do it because my mic will probably fall off, but when you want to exhale as you jump up and down. Take a breath in and up, exhale and down again. Okay, whatever that is. For burpees, about the same idea. You want to make sure that you're breathing the whole time. Now there's two types of breathing. There's relaxation breathing or recovery breathing, and then there's actual labor breathing. So when you're breathing for exercise, you typically want to be perfusing or getting more air into your lungs. So chest expanding and contracting. If you are relaxing, you want your diaphragm to be doing most of the work. Okay, so that's to be pushing your organs down. So I don't know if you can see it, but making the big belly like the Buddha, okay? What you want to understand is that there are different times that are more appropriate for different types of breathing. Some people, in fact, I think a lot of people have a tendency to get stuck in survival mode. Like if you look out, well, don't turn on the news, first of all. Don't do it. There's nothing good coming out there. They're talking about missile strikes and impeachments and all kinds of other crap. It's not really going to boost your positivity level, okay? But if you want to understand, like, there's too much stress in the world as it is, okay? So we need to find time for peace and quiet, disconnect from social media, even though this serves a purpose. We want to disconnect and say, okay, I'm going to go within, I'm going to check in on my body, see how it's doing, see how everything's going, and disconnect from all the stressors. Like, I call it book face, but we're on book face right now, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, the news, emails, things like that. All the things that are trying to vie for your attention, okay? Have some peace and quiet time. Disconnect. Make sure you're connecting with your partner, your spouse, whoever, your kids, whatever it is. And then make sure you're breathing. Like kids, it's super important. Like if you ever see a kid breathing like this, they don't do that unless they're under stress. Well, no human does that unless they're under stress. But adults, we learn how to adapt because we're in stress mode. Like everybody's breathing, short breaths, panting, if you will. But kids, they almost exclusively breathe into their bellies until they're under enough stress and they just stop and they're in their panic mode. So breathing into your diaphragm and pushing your belly down and letting the air fill the lower part of the lung is great for when you're relaxing and you're trying to meditate or things like that. When you're exercising, you want to make sure you're getting air up into your lungs, okay? So being not recovering, I'm an ex-asthmatic, let's put it that way. I had asthma for 30 plus years. I don't take any corticosteroids anymore. I did enough brain work and gut work and things like that to make that not reality. But for someone who has a tendency to breathe short and shallow, you're going to have less cardiovascular fitness or less wind, shall we say, if you are not breathing air up into your lungs, okay? So you want to make sure you're breathing up and out, and you'll feel everything fill and up into your head. And we're going to be teaching a class here at some point in the near future, which is pertaining to actually activating your brain through your breath. It's the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, pretty brilliant guy. Fascinating stuff. I use it all the time. I notice if I feel sensations in my body, it's because I'm not breathing and my brain is not getting the oxygen it needs. So, I mean, even when I'm trying to go through my day-to-day, I have to pay attention to that. So being mindful of your breath is really critical. So these are just some helpful tips to help you engage in your life transformation for 2020. Lord knows it doesn't have to be 2020 to start transforming your life. It's a daily thing. It's the food choices. It's the how you're moving your body. It's how you're thinking. So Dr. Bob Rakowski, eat right, think right, sleep right, talk right, move right, poop right, and something else right. All right? Mm-hmm. Basically, you want to do things in a way that is conducive to your health and help you feel your best. Because ultimately, yeah?
Oh, I was just going to add, lots of people are concerned about their protein shakes and when they should take their protein shakes.
Absolutely.
Into their
Sure.
What do you recommend?
That's a great question, yeah. So basically, if you're doing any strenuous exercise, within the first 20 minutes of after exercising, you want to stop the inflammation cascade. So people say, well, what's my window? Do I eat chocolate milk after I work out? I mean, that's one of the most asinine things I've ever heard, but I'm sure somebody somewhere has an article or a paper that says, scientifically proven that chocolate milk will help you recover and get stronger and something like that. I'm sure it's from the Ag Council, but at any rate, what has been proven scientifically is that within the first 20 minutes of after exercise, you want to get some type of protein in there, in your body. Now, protein is going to break down partly into glucose, okay, through the amino acid cycle, but not to get too nerdy on that, you're going to get protein, which is going to feed your body because you're made up of mostly proteins, right? At least we should be. Muscle is protein, and your body needs protein to repair. In fact, if you're ever doing a detox program, you have to have protein in order for your liver to be able to detoxify. So people that go on these really low-calorie diets, now fasting's one thing, but if you're actually trying to lose weight and you're trying to mobilize fat, you need to support your liver as far as that goes. So there's different nuances of this, so don't jump to any conclusions. If you have questions, just send us a message, PM or DM or whatever they call it these days. Call, text, email, whatever it is. So, but you want to choose your protein source wisely. Now, some people have issues with pea and rice. They're starting to come out with pumpkin seed proteins. And in fact, this one right here, Protein Zyme, fantastic product from US Enzymes, which is on special this month. 20% off, Nissa, thank you. It's a combination of pea protein, pumpkin seed protein, brown rice, and hemp protein. So it's a broader spectrum. Some people have issues with the mouthfeel of rice proteins and things like that. Some people don't like how pea feels in their body because I think it's considered a grain of some sort. But you want something that's broader spectrum. But just understand that I would strongly encourage you, even if it's New Zealand cows that are grass-fed from the moment they're born, okay? Whey protein is a challenge for the human body, okay? Not everyone, but I would say the preponderance of evidence, clinically speaking, most people cannot handle whey or casein. So you'd be wise to stay away from those because they're very strong binders, okay? And they can cause a lot of immune reactions in the gut. And what happens in your gut happens in your brain. So just appreciate that. So whether you use this or something else, you want to make sure it's a broader spectrum and it's going to be beneficial, okay? And it doesn't have to be crazy. Like this has 14 grams of protein in one scoop, okay? Now most people think, well, I need like 35 grams. Well, when you have enzyme-activated protein, you don't need that much. So you can get away with a lot less, but your body actually benefits from even more. So you just have to understand the different nuances of this and why US Enzymes designs theirs the way they do versus, Nutrition City or Vitamin Store, Vitamin Shop or whatever, GNC. You got your 4-pound tub of whey protein. All right, let's get jacked. Let me work for Hans and Franz, if you want to get pumped up. But ultimately, you're going to decrease your ability to gain muscle because you're going to inflame your body. And your body's going to have to prioritize its energy to put the flames out rather than build up your muscles. So as a word of caution, stay away from casein and whey. Whey isolate's the most bioactive and bioavailable, and it has all the branched chain amino acids and blah, blah, blah. Okay? Great marketing, but what is the secondary side effect in your gut of consuming that whey or casein protein? You have to appreciate that. Most people can't process it. It's an allergen or a sensitivity for them, and it's going to cause problems. So you want to appreciate that plant-based proteins are most likely a better option unless you're going to eat straight up meat. Okay? Like I say, if you can pull it out of the garden or shoot it with a bow and arrow, you're pretty much safe to eat that. But when it comes from a bag, you want to be very selective about your sources, which is why we carry what we do, because there's a lot of garbage out there, and a lot of people try to do a lot of good things for themselves, but they end up hurting themselves in the process. So, any other things you want to add, Anissa? Okay. Did I answer your question sufficiently? Fantastic. Okay. Whatever questions you have, jot them down, send them in. Everybody's going to benefit from your question because we'll be able to elaborate on that and provide you greater in-depth information. So feel free to run this through again, share it with your friends and family so they're more empowered to understand how they can venture into their 2020 and exercise-wise, especially if they're new to it and they don't know anything about it. Jump on the team with 2020 Life Transformation because we're going to be getting really excited about that. Literally, it's going to transform your life. It's great. So we'll see you on the 20th or the 28th for the Regen Cellular Therapy seminars. And otherwise, we'll see you next week for the Wednesday Wellness Minutes. Take care, everybody.